Right now, somewhere, a single person is downloading a dating app, getting frustrated, deleting it, and downloading a different one. They think they just switched companies. They didn't. Tinder, Hinge, OkCupid, Plenty of Fish, Match.com, 5 different apps, 5 different vibes, one owner. There's a single company that quietly bought up the entire market for being lonely. At its peak, it was worth $45 billion, and then it spent the next few years falling apart. Not because someone beat it, but because it had already won. That company is Match Group, headquartered in Dallas, and if you've been single any time in the last decade, you've almost certainly handed it money. It owns 5 of the 8 most popular dating apps in the United States. Somewhere around 65% of all dating app downloads run through brands it controls. That's not a market leader, that's basically the whole market wearing different outfits. Which sounds like the greatest business on earth, until you run into the one thing a monopoly on dating can't actually do: conjure new single people out of thin air. Hold on to that because it's the whole story. Match didn't start as a swipe app. It started back in the 90s as Match.com, one of the original online dating sites, from an era when admitting you met someone on the internet was mildly embarrassing. It got folded into IAC, Barry Diller's media empire, and then it went shopping. In 2011, it bought OkCupid for $50 million. A year later, a little app called Tinder was built inside an IAC startup incubator. And when Tinder introduced the swipe, it didn't just win, it rewired how an entire generation met each other. By 2017, Tinder Gold had made Tinder the highest-grossing non-gaming app on the planet. Then, the real spending started. Plenty of Fish, $575 million. A controlling stake in Hinge in 2018, then the whole company by 2019. They even tried to buy Bumble. Bumble said no, so the two of them sued each other for a while instead. By the time the dust settled, Match owned the casual app, the serious app, the older demographic app, and the app for people who hate apps. If you were single and online, there was almost no way to avoid paying them. So Match owned the whole board, printed cash, and looked completely untouchable, which makes it genuinely hard to explain why this was the peak and why everything after it went downhill. Here's the problem with owning the entire market. You can't grow by stealing customers from a rival because you are the rival. Your only real source of growth is new single people deciding to try online dating for the first time. And for a while, that worked beautifully. The pandemic locked everyone indoors, dating apps boomed, and Match's stock peaked near $45 billion in 2021. Then the new singles stopped showing up. Gen Z, the group that was supposed to be Match's next big wave, looked at dating apps and largely went, "No thanks." Survey after survey showed younger users found the whole experience exhausting and weirdly joyless. Endless swiping, a paywall in front of features that used to be free, and the creeping sense that the app wanted them scrolling, not actually dating. Tinder's user base started shrinking. Not a dramatic overnight collapse, a leak. Monthly active users ticked down quarter after quarter, and paying subscribers followed them out the door. A company built entirely on a steady refill of fresh singles suddenly had a supply problem. And that slow, quiet leak was about to wipe out roughly $40 billion in shareholder value and bring some of the most feared investors on Wall Street straight to the front door. From that 2021 peak, Match's market value fell off a cliff, down into the single-digit billions, a drop of around $40 billion, while the broader stock market climbed the entire time. Nobody hacked them, there was no accounting scandal, the flagship just kept slowly deflating. And when a company gets that cheap relative to the cash it throws off, the activist investors smell blood. First came Elliott Investment Management. Yeah, the same firm that went after Southwest Airlines, with a $1 billion stake. Then Starboard Value. Then a smaller, scrappier fund called Anson, pushing for board seats. 3 activists all circling the same wounded giant, all demanding the same thing: fix Tinder or sell the company. Match cleaned house, brought in a new CEO, Spencer Rascoff, and kicked off a turnaround. And here's the part that wrecks the simple doom narrative. The business is still wildly profitable. In early 2026, Match was still posting profit margins above 50% on Tinder and beating Wall Street's revenue expectations. This is a company drowning in cash while its core product slowly bleeds users. Meanwhile, the actual bright spot isn't Tinder at all. It's Hinge, the designed-to-be-deleted app, growing revenue close to 30% a year while Tinder shrinks. So the whole strategy now is a quiet handoff. keep Tinder's cash flowing long enough to crown Hinge as the new king before the activists lose their patience. Now, the easy read here is that Match just fumbled, but run the numbers and a much stranger picture shows up. This is a company that's failing and minting money at the exact same time, and that contradiction is the whole lesson. Here's what the Match story actually teaches you, and it's a trap a lot of dominant companies walk right into. Owning an entire category is only as valuable as that category's ability to grow. Match won online dating so completely that it ran out of anything left to win. And the second its category stopped expanding, total domination quietly turned into a problem with no obvious way out. There's also a brutal little accounting lesson buried in here. Profitable and healthy are not the same word. Match prints money, 50% plus margins, hundreds of millions in profit a year. On the income statement, it looks fantastic, but profit is a snapshot of today. A shrinking user base is a story about tomorrow. And the market doesn't pay you for what you earned last quarter, it pays for what it believes you'll earn over the next decade. That's how a hugely profitable company loses $40 billion in value. Investors simply stopped believing in the tomorrow. There was even a class action lawsuit accusing the apps of being addictive by design, engineered to keep you paying instead of finding anyone. Match called it ridiculous, pointed out that almost all of its revenue comes from the very users it claims it's trying to get off the apps, and got the whole thing shoved into private arbitration. They might even be right. But the deeper irony is that it barely matters, because the real threat was never that the apps trap people, it's that people stopped showing up to be trapped. Match Group spent 15 years buying up every possible way to be lonely online. Turns out the one thing it couldn't buy was a reason for the next generation to care. If this kind of breakdown's your thing, stick around. There's plenty more where this came from.